guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. This is like a never-ending struggle. Hello, gentlemen and ladies. We have ourselves a severely burned up 2x4 here. As we can clearly see, it's let out the magic pixies. Nothing we haven't seen before. 10 ohm smoke has been released from the environment. That is for sure and for certain. So we got to clean this whole mess up, replace our combiner resistor back here, replace our 10 ohm. And the one next to it, I mean, this thing failed so catastrophically that I think it fried the 10 ohm next to it as well, but I'm pretty sure the transistor's still good. Let me pull this pill, change the pill out, replace and clean up the 10 ohm circuitry, replace our combiner network, and let's test it. We might have to replace yet another pill, but we'll see. Anyhow, let's get on with the show. Okay, Mr. D, we replaced your one transistor, replaced both of the 10 ohms, put this all back together, tested our output capacitor, put in the remote jack, and then I went and I cut the air vent slots out of the back so we could get a little bit more, just a scooch more air through it. And then the other thing I did is I went and I added a upgraded external high flow fan to it to be able to jam a little bit more air through the cabinet. Hopefully make this thing last a little bit better for you. The other thing is here, we don't want to do this anymore. If I remember correctly, this had soldered ends on it. Well, we put the soldered ends into the eyelets and then we smashed it with a hammer. This never works. This will work for a minute, but then corrosion gets down inside of here and it never ever works. So because we smashed these with a hammer, I can't reuse these, therefore I couldn't reuse this. I went ahead and I put you new hydraulically crimped soldered. So first we soldered it, then we crimped them, ends with heat shrink on it, and I'll give you a brand new 150 amp Anderson clip for it. Okay, so let's run through this here real fast. Over here we've got a 1000 watt slug in peak, 1000 in average, and 5 watt slug in reverse. So we're going to put our low drive, plain Jane everyday RCI 2950, the kind that makes bald eagles cry because it puts up with so much punishment. Put our little 20 watts into it. We're going to turn on our 2x4. Getting 1000 out of it. It's that simple. Now we're going to come up here to our input reflect. That is a 1 watt slug. It's a venerable 1 watt slug in reverse. Remember, all the way over here on the right is 1 watt worth of input reflect. So we are down to 200 mils worth of input reflect, or less. Maybe 400 mils worth of input reflect, not enough to get excited about. And our output side, we are getting, like I said, a full 1000 watts peak and about 400 average. Now I know that you're going to have yourself a derail radio hooked up to this thing. So let's go ahead and we'll turn on Frankenstein's creation up there with a blower on it. Let's see here, derail 29. It's this coax here. So let's go ahead and we'll hook up the derail 29. No idea what this is going to do on the derail 29. We're just going to test it blind. Hello. 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 500 bird on the derail 29. Hello. I think on yours you were seeing close to 7. Oh, this thing is just hello. Hello. About 500 derail bird watts. It's real important that I show both units of measure, the derail radio and the plain Jane radio. The reason for that is we've entered into a time where if I don't show both and I just use the derail radio as my primary workbench radio, people are going to become confused. They're going to be like, well, I don't understand. It made 700 bird on his workbench or whatever. Why is it only showing like 300 on mine? Well, as we know, your average power is solely derived from the radio. The amplifier can only amplify what's put into it. The amplifier itself is not what determines your average power. It's your radio. So on 14 volts flat, dropping to probably about 13.8 or so, we're seeing about 980 watts. The derail radio, we're seeing about 800 watts peak and 500 bird, on and on and on. So let's put the tin on it and let's play with the fan here for a minute. Okay, so we got the lid on the 2x4. I want you guys to keep an eye over here on the amp gauge. When nobody believes me, a 2x4 pulls like 130 amps. Well, it does. Hello. 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 So when I tell them like a 667, you got to have a minimum of 120 amp power supply. They're like, what? You do. I had a gentleman call me today, a very nice guy. He couldn't understand why his 6-pill running on a 50 amp power supply would only make about 300 watts. He goes, I do more than a couple watts, and the amplifier starts clicking. And I started chuckling. I said, brother, you got to get a bigger power supply. You do. He wanted me to modify the amp. I'm like, I can't. I would love to put a couple more transistors in it. I mean, I can't from the standpoint as I can't take on any more work, but I said, before you go and get all excited and ship your amp out here and then have it sit here for 6 or 8 months waiting for me to be able to put transistors in it, I said, how about we get ourselves at a minimum at 150 amp power supply and watch how well that thing runs with the right amount of power supply behind it first. He's like, well, do you think that'll help it? And I'm like, yeah. You can't make power if you don't have power to put in the amp. It's just that simple. So the reason I got off on that tangent is because of this. This is no good. I bitch and I carry on about this all the time for a reason. This is slapdashery bullshit. We can't do this. There's 120 amps worth of current that goes through that connector. Jamming it inside the eyelet and smashing it flat with a hammer never works. And you can tell even at that, with the connections I have on here now, we're still having a little bit of voltage drop. Listen to the fan. Just listen to the fan. See how that fan is slowing down? The fan's slowing down because the voltage going to the amplifier is dropping internally. But on the test bench, everything is running top notch. So you got good input reflect, good output power, okay? Give you a fan upgrade, put the remote in it for you. Cut the vent on the back side of the amp so we can get a little bit more volume out of the back side of the cabinet. Made sure your variable's good to go. Everything else on this thing is fixed, and replace the transistor. So on that note, Mr. D, good luck to you. Remember what I've been trying to teach you, and you finally are starting to get into your head. You don't need to run it to get every last watt. Like he was telling me he was getting 700 bird out of this box. And all I could do was laugh. He goes, what? I said, you don't think 700 bird's a little bit excessive? No, it was doing it. You say, but how long did it do it for? It did it for 2 weeks. I said, okay, well, how about we back that down a little bit to where you're making about 450, 500 bird? Well, why would I do that? so you don't keep blowing up your parts. See, these guys will go to the line and they'll put their stuff on crazy voltage and they'll shoot out with it, but they only key up for like 10-15 seconds. And like, I know for a fact that there might be a 2x8 out there that's out there running around on the line right now, and that guy's getting well in excess of 2,000 vert out of it. Think about that for a minute. But he's only keying it for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And that's the only reason the box stays in one piece. You can overdrive an amplifier. It will put out a ton of watts, but is it going to hold it? No. Or if you just run things at about 2/3 of what they're supposed to put out, it'll last you for decades. I don't know about you, these Toshiba transistors are getting really expensive. I haven't looked at RF Parts' webpage in the last couple days. I'm sure I'm going to have a reason to here in the next day or so. But from what I understand, they're sold out of everything. Everything. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last. I'm not going to let that affect how I'm changing or charging for parts. But I mean, they're sold out of everything, at least the last time I looked. That's no Toshibas whatsoever. No red dots, no non-red dots, no HGs. So, food for thought. We shouldn't be abusive to our equipment. Just enjoy it, loaf it along, let it have fun. That's the way I run my station over here. I key 1 whole watt and I swing to 2. At about 4 or 5 zeros, but just saying. Gentlemen, I gotta go. And as always, thanks every single one of you guys for your patience. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being patient with me as I'm working through each one of these, one at a time. But that's the only way they're gonna get done. Thank you, Bird. Thank you, Coaxial Dynamics. Thank you, Siglet Technologies, for all the help over here with decent test equipment that's modern. I have a firm belief in analog equipment, but I've got a really good belief in digital equipment, at least for what I do. Thank you, Excess Power, for the supercapacitor technology that you bring all of us in high quality, good batteries. And as always, thank you, Mr. Black Productions, for standing behind us, believing in us, and allowing us to have all this really cool tech equipment over here that allows us to shoot all these videos for everybody to enjoy. Guys, I gotta go. Appreciate every single one of you guys. Let's play nice, be well to each other. Remember, we're all in this hobby together, and none of us are better than the next. I'll see you.